In 1933, in a cheap hotel in a corner of Hollywood, a man lay on the floor, Buster Keaton, the legend of silent cinema. Charlie Chaplin's rival, the genius known as the Great Stone Face. But that night, that man was drunk. His money was gone, his career had collapsed, and nobody cared, because Hollywood had already forgotten Buster Keaton. But Buster's real tragedy was only beginning. Before we reveal how Hollywood destroyed one of its greatest geniuses, hit subscribe for more untold stories about legends who gave everything and lost it all. Buster Keaton was born in 1895 in Kansas. His family were traveling performers doing vaudeville shows. Buster was on stage when he was only 3 years old. His father, Joe Keaton, would throw him on stage, slam him into walls, drop him on the floor. Audiences laughed. The child never cried, he just got up and continued. Buster never feels pain, his father would say. But the truth was very different. Buster felt the pain. He had just learned not to show it, because his father had taught him this: make them laugh, but never smile. If you smile, you are not funny. That rule would become the curse of Buster's life. In 1917, Buster entered the film world. It was the era of silent films. Names like Charlie Chaplin and Harold Lloyd were rising. Buster joined them. But Buster was different from the others. Chaplin smiled, Lloyd showed fear. Buster showed no expression at all, just that flat, expressionless face. They called him the Great Stone Face. And that face made Buster a legend. Sherlock Jr., The General, Steamboat Bill Jr. The films were masterpieces. Acrobatics, physical comedy, perfect timing. Buster did his own stunts. He jumped from trains, ran on buildings, fell into water. In one scene, a 2-ton wall piece fell on Buster, but it passed through a small window opening and Buster wasn't hurt. If the calculation had been off by an inch, Buster would have died. But Buster took the risk, because he believed in perfection. By the late 1920s, Buster was one of Hollywood's biggest stars. He had his own studio, his own team, he had complete control over every film. Then in 1928, sound films arrived and everything changed. MGM Studio made Buster an offer. Work with us, big budgets, big productions. Buster hesitated. I want to make my own films, he said. MGM insisted. The silent film era is over, Buster. Either work with us or disappear. Buster signed and made the biggest mistake of his life. At MGM, Buster had no control. The studio decided everything, which films to make, which scenes to include, how to perform them. Buster objected. This isn't my style. The producers replied, you don't have a style anymore. We have the style. The first MGM films were disasters. Buster's genius was suffocated. Comedy became mechanical. There was no soul. Critics wrote, Buster Keaton isn't what he used to be. Audiences disappeared. Box office numbers fell. MGM coldly said, you are no longer valuable. In 1933, MGM terminated Buster's contract. He was 38 years old, and his career was finished. The money was gone. Buster had lost everything to gambling. He had debts. His house was being sold. And worst of all, his wife, Natalie Talmadge, filed for divorce. She took custody of their 2 sons. Buster couldn't see his children. Buster started drinking heavily. He woke up with whiskey in the morning, drank until he passed out at night. One day he was found lying on the floor in a cheap hotel. An ambulance was called. He was taken to the hospital. The doctor asked, why are you destroying yourself? Buster replied, because I deserve to be destroyed. He was committed to a mental institution, forcibly committed. He stayed there for 3 months. Nobody visited. In 1934, Buster was released from the hospital. But he was no longer the old Buster. He was quiet, broken, alone. He couldn't find work. Hollywood didn't want him. Old-fashioned, they said. Nobody watches him anymore. Buster started working in small roles. Extra work. Scenes lasting just a few minutes. But he never complained. He just worked. One day, he received an invitation for an old film. There was going to be a screening at an art cinema. Buster went. When he entered the hall, there were only 20 people. But when the general started, people began to laugh. They applauded. And Buster, for the first time in many years, felt something. Maybe he was still valuable after all. In 1940, he met Eleanor Norris. She was a young woman, warm, understanding. She believed in Buster. "You're a genius," Eleanor said, "and the world will see that again." They married. Eleanor saved Buster's life. She helped him stop drinking. She got him working again. In the 1950s, television arrived, and something strange happened. Young people discovered Buster. They watched his old films, and they were amazed. "This man is a genius," they said. Film festivals invited Buster. They gave him honorary awards. Master of Silent Cinema, they called him. At age 60, Buster was rediscovered. In a 1965 interview, he was asked, "What was the worst period of your career?" Buster replied, "Every day I worked at MGM." The rediscovery brought new opportunities. Buster appeared on television shows. He did cameos in modern films. Young comedians sought his advice. They wanted to learn from the master. One of those young comedians was a kid who would later change comedy forever. He sat with Buster for hours, asking questions. "How did you time that fall? How did you calculate that stunt?" Buster patiently explained. But he always ended with the same advice. "Don't let them control you. The moment you give up control, you give up your soul." In 1965, Buster was given a special Oscar for his lifetime contribution to cinema. When he walked on stage to accept it, the entire audience stood. Some were crying. Here was a man Hollywood had thrown away, now being celebrated as one of the greatest artists who ever lived. Buster stood there, holding the Oscar, and for just a moment, the faintest hint of something crossed his face. Not quite a smile, but close as Buster Keaton ever came. His health began declining in early 1966. The years of physical abuse, the stunts that should have killed him, the alcohol, the stress, it all caught up at once. Lung cancer. The diagnosis came quickly. Buster took the news the same way he took everything else, with that stone face. No emotion, no complaint. Eleanor stayed by his side. She held his hand. "You gave the world so much," she told him. Buster looked at her with those eyes that had never changed. "I gave them what I could," he said quietly. But MGM took what mattered. Even at the end, the betrayal still stung. The years when his genius was crushed, when he was forced to be something he wasn't, when they took away his control and his dignity. Those years had broken something in him that never fully healed. In his final weeks, Buster watched his old films. Eleanor set up a projector in their living room. They watched The General, Sherlock Jr., Steamboat Bill Jr. Buster studied the screen carefully, as if watching someone else. That young man performing impossible stunts, taking insane risks, creating moments of pure cinematic magic. "I was good, wasn't I?" he said once. Not with pride, but with genuine surprise, as if he'd forgotten. "You were the best," Eleanor replied. On February 1st, 1966, Buster Keaton died peacefully at home. He was 70 years old. Eleanor was holding his hand. The funeral wasn't large, but those who came truly loved him. Eleanor cried. Old friends bowed their heads respectfully. One speaker said, "Buster Keaton never smiled, but he made the world laugh, and that was the greatest gift." Charlie Chaplin sent a telegram. "The greatest of us all has gone. We will never see his like again." The gravestone reads simply, "Buster Keaton," but below a note, "The great stone face." That face will be remembered forever. After his death, film schools began teaching Buster Keaton alongside the greatest directors. His techniques influenced generations. Jackie Chan, in interviews, always cited Buster as his primary inspiration. "He showed me that physical comedy is an art form," Chan said. Modern comedians study Buster's timing. His facial control, the way he could convey everything without showing anything. In an era of sound, he proved that silence could speak louder. However, Buster Keaton taught the world comedy, but he himself never smiled. Hollywood lifted him up, then destroyed him, then forgot him. But Buster never gave up. He fell, but he got back up, just like that little boy. When his father slammed him into the wall, some people fall and never rise again. But some, like Buster, get up every single time, without smiling, because true strength is not showing the pain. The studios took his control. They took his dignity. They took his prime years and wasted his genius. But they couldn't take what mattered most. They couldn't take his art. Those films, those perfect moments captured on celluloid, they survived everything. Today, nearly 60 years after his death, people still watch Buster Keaton, still laugh at his genius, still marvel at his courage and his craft. He never smiled on screen, but generations have smiled because of him. That's the real legacy. Not the pain, not the betrayal, not even the comeback. Just a man with a stone face who proved that you don't need words, you don't need expressions, you don't even need to smile to touch people's hearts. You just need to be brave enough to fall, and brave enough to get back up, over and over again.